Hey guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. So today we're going to be talking about the basic gear you need to get started in wedding and commercial filmmaking. There's a huge misconception out there that you need the fanciest, most expensive equipment, but that's just false. You do not need anything too expensive to actually get started. So let's get into exactly what you need. So the very first thing you're going to need is a DSLR camera. So you do not need anything super fancy or expensive. Up until this year, I was shooting on Canon T3Is and Canon 70Ds. I recently made the switch to Panasonic just to fit a different look that I'm going for, but those did just fine for what I was doing. So normally when you buy your first DSLR, it comes with a kit lens. So that lens normally is not great for professional use and you'll eventually upgrade it, but for now keep it in your bag because it's really going to come in handy, especially on bright sunny days where you need a good zoom lens. One lens I would highly recommend, especially if you're just starting out, is a 50mm lens. It is probably the most used lens that I have in my camera bag. It's perfect for all types of situations, low light especially. You're going to bring this lens with you everywhere you go, and it's definitely something I would totally recommend. So a tripod. You're going to need a tripod. It doesn't have to be a super fancy one right now, but you need something that works. You need something that's able to give you smooth pans and tilts. You're also going to need something that's going to be able to lock into place when you need it to. So definitely pick up a tripod. Even if it's from Walmart, Target, Kmart, I don't care, you need a tripod. The tripod's younger brother is the monopod. You need the monopod because what the monopod is going to be able to do is going to be able to give you stability but also movement, because you're going to be able to go from A to B really quickly but also be able to lock down and go ahead and get a nice steady shot. Whereas a tripod, you're going to have to fold up, lug somewhere. Sometimes it's really inconvenient for tight situations. A monopod has one leg. It's very easy to move around and can also give you nice stable shots if you use it the right way. Just remember, practice makes perfect, so learn how to use it before you actually take it on a shoot. So aside from high quality video, you need high quality audio. It's going to be the very first thing that your viewers pick out, no matter how good or bad your actual video quality is. So my recommendation is a Zoom H1N. They're about $100 on Amazon. They're cheap, they're affordable, they work extremely well. So the last piece of equipment you need is also audio related, and that's going to be a lavalier mic. That lavalier mic is going to plug into that Zoom H1N recorder that I was talking about previously. Now, what a lavalier mic does is it picks up the vocals right by the throat, so that's going to make for the clearest audio possible. So the reason I do not use wireless mics is because I primarily do weddings. A lot of times what happens is if you're at a venue that is providing a mic to the pastor or a DJ is providing a mic, sometimes those frequencies from their mics and your mics will get confused and actually start to overlap and interact with one another. That can ultimately ruin the video. It can ruin the ceremony for the guest. There's just too many variables involved with wireless microphones. So that's why I keep it safe and actually just have a direct feed right in their pocket. That's what I do for interviewees, for commercial videos. That's what I do for weddings. I'll actually go ahead and mic up the groom and the pastor. But if you're just starting out, you only need one of these mics. And I would definitely recommend always putting it on the pastor, because that pastor is going to be able to pick up the groom's audio and the bride's audio. It's just going to take a little bit of editing for you in post to rubber band those audio clips together. So if you're a beginner and you're using a DSLR for the first time, you need to take it out of automatic mode. Go ahead and switch it over to the M, that stands for manual mode. When you're shooting in manual mode, it's a big learning curve. It takes a lot of practice. It's not hard to learn though. The problem with automatic mode is that when you're shooting in that mode, all your exposures are going to be the same. If you get into a dark setting, kind of like where I am right now, your camera is going to go ahead and bump your exposure all the way up. It's going to bump your ISO all the way up. When it bumps your ISO up, it adds grain to the camera. So my recommendation is that you spend a couple hours every day for a week just learning the ins and outs of your camera, learning the uses of your lenses, learning what ISO, aperture, white balance, Kelvin is. Go ahead and learn all of those. I will have future episodes that's going to show you the ins and outs of how to use a camera in manual mode and what the differences mean. But for right now, make sure you just shoot in manual mode and learn it. So earlier I told you guys to purchase a 50mm lens or a prime lens. So a prime lens is a lens that does not zoom in or out. It's a lens that stays set at its focal length for its entire life. Now, for beginners, this may seem like a huge inconvenience because you have to physically walk to and from your subject in order to reframe them. So a prime lens is going to really teach you the importance of composition. It's going to teach you how to take your time, and it's also going to teach you the importance of just knowing how to use that particular lens and your camera. So prime lenses are extremely useful. I have 3 of my own. I have a 14, a 24 that I'm shooting on right now, and a 50mm lens. So these lenses I use way more than my zoom lenses. My zoom lenses I really just use for interviews. I'll use them for more candid type things where I have to be further back. So just keep in mind what the different uses of your different lenses are for. So there's one thing I cannot stress enough. It's making sure you know what you're going to shoot, you know the movement that you're going to do, and you have the composition down before you actually press record. A lot of times what I see is, thanks to the digital age, is people hit record and they don't stop recording until they think they have enough footage to salvage something. You want to go into what you're shooting with confidence. You want to know that when you get there, you're going to get the shots you need in order to tell that story. We need to start thinking like the old days where we had film to use instead of digital, because back then when you were shooting with film, you pretty much had a one-take deal where as soon as you hit record, film reel started rolling and that was it. So there was no really do-overs, and if you did do do-overs, it cost you time and money. So after you have all this essential gear, how do you get more gear in the future? The high-tech stuff, the drones, the steady cams, the gimbals. How do you acquire all that stuff? What I personally did was, after all of my paid shoots, I would actually go ahead and buy one new piece of equipment, whether that be a memory card, a hard drive, a light, a slider, and then I would learn how to use that piece of equipment. So one thing I would not recommend doing is buying all the toys at once. You want to go ahead and make sure you know the ins and outs of basic filmmaking. You want to make sure you know how to use your camera in manual mode. You want to know how to set up your lights. You want to know how your prime lenses work and your tripods and your monopods. Now, when you actually do get the drones, the steady cams, the sliders and all that, make sure that you don't get all those at once, because when you do, you want to have time to learn how to use all those. You want to make sure that you can establish a shot with a slider before you establish a shot with a drone. Same thing with a tripod. You want to make sure you know how to establish a shot with a tripod before you establish it with a slider. If you don't learn the basics first, you're going to have a really hard time learning the basics of the expensive equipment that you're buying. So keep in mind, the drones, the steady cams, the sliders, those are all just toys. They don't really do too much to the quality of the video, but they do up your production value. So eventually you do need to get them, but as a beginner, you don't need them to tell a story. Alright guys, so that does it for this week's video. I hope that I was able to teach you the essential gear that you need for when you're first starting out filmmaking. Like always, if you have any questions, definitely comment below, message me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm always happy to answer your questions, and we can always answer those questions in more detail in next week's video. So definitely go ahead and keep the ideas coming in about the videos. I'm really excited for them. So I guess until next week, guys. Later.